predominant event that has occurred in the Twin Cities since this morning, and so there aren't too many people that aren't going to know what is actually going on as they make their way south out of Minneapolis and now onto 62, heading toward Minnetonka. Bottom of the hour, 1:30. I'm going to start from the beginning, and I'm going to let our viewers know and those streaming with us today what we know, and that is 3 Burnsville first responders, 2 police officers, and a first responder of another description, possibly fire, possibly medic, maybe both, were shot and killed this morning responding to a domestic, called in as a family in danger call, which makes it a quick response, very serious response. At some point, when they arrived on the scene, took fire from an individual. We do not know whether it was inside that home or outside that home, but they took fire from an individual, and those 3 were killed. There were others, we are told, injured on the scene as well. We don't know the extent of those injuries. We just know that it may have gone beyond just the 3 individuals, the first responders who were killed. At that point, massive first response agencies, officers, and the situation appeared to have been under control in a relatively short period of time.
But the attack and the intensity of that attack and the number of bullets that were fired, and we can only imagine that it was a very, very large number from what we've seen at the scene. And when you work in this industry, we make so many law enforcement contacts as reporters and out in the field. And I'm reminded of one of my contacts that I've known for more than 20 years, and he had to take down an active shooter on a college campus, and you just wonder how can you recover from something like this. But these law enforcement officers, it is a calling for them, and they go toward these calls for violence, and every single day they take the call and they go right toward the danger. And that's why you see so much support. Anybody who's in law enforcement will want to come out for the family members and also for the other officers in this department in Burnsville to show them that they're not alone and that they have all of this support here and across the country in these moments of grief. Just a really dark day here in Minnesota.
You may be wondering why the ME, why is the final destination here, at least at this phase of the investigation, a medical examiner. The answer to that is simple. Every element of the death of these 3 individuals has to be known. Cause of death, time of death, all those things have to be part of an investigation now. And that has to happen in a relatively quick order in terms of this part of this phase of the investigation. So immediately upon being pronounced dead at the hospital, these 3 individuals then are prepped, and they will go directly, as they are now, to the medical examiner. The closest medical examiner, the one that serves Hennepin County, is in Minnetonka. And so that 15-mile trip is really the first phase of an investigation.
Let's go over the governor's statement again. It was released maybe about 11 o'clock this morning. And just again, the governor was pretty quick to respond, saying that we received the horrific news from Burnsville this morning while responding to a call of a family in danger. 2 officers, and he says 1 firefighter, but it could have been a firefighter, paramedic, first responder. And he says other officers were injured. And we must never take for granted the bravery and sacrifices of our responders and the sacrifices they make each and every day. And he has called for flags to be flown at half-staff beginning tomorrow at sunrise. The lieutenant governor also following up with her own statement, saying that how selflessly committed all of these first responders are to the state of Minnesota and to the residents here each and every day.
We also have a statement. I don't know that we have it on the screen, but I can read it to you. We have the Minnesota Police Association putting out a statement very early on as well. Executive Director Brian Peters saying, "We are heartbroken. Our law enforcement community is heartbroken, and we are just devastated at this horrific loss. These heroes leave behind loved ones and communities, a community who will forever remember their bravery and dedication to keeping Minnesotans safe." That sums up what we've all been feeling this morning in reference to all law enforcement and first responders, of the sacrifices and the dedication they have to keeping Minnesotans safe. He goes on to say, well, actually, different director, Jim Morton, of Law Enforcement Labor Services, says, our thoughts and prayers are with the family of the officers and the first responder who responded to that domestic call this morning. The officers struck down while answering the call of duty.
And it's hard to put a number on the number of law enforcement vehicles that are in this procession. They just keep coming. So at this point, I think it's safe to say that there are probably hundreds who've joined today. And then you see the scene outside the medical examiner's office. More and more people keep showing up with those American flags and the thin blue line flags as well. And we've said this a couple of times, but in the last year, just in the last year, there are several law enforcement officers in our region who've lost their lives in traffic stops, domestic calls, drunk driver, and an officer in Fargo who was from Minnesota who was ambushed, responding to a traffic accident.
All that essentially within the last 12 months, really. Right. And it highlights the danger that these officers and first responders, other first responders, face every single day when they put on the uniform. And it's exactly what we talk about when they're trained and they take on the responsibility of protecting and serving.
Also, Angie Craig, this is her congressional district. Mm-hmm. She also just released a statement saying that her heart is broken and that, she's with their families, thinking about them. But she's also said that she's asked the White House to marshal any additional federal resources that may be available. She says, I'm horrified to see this kind of violence in our community, and today serves as another solemn reminder that those who protect our communities do so at great personal risk. We must do everything in our power to prevent tragedies like these before they happen and hold violent criminals accountable to the fullest extent of the law.
And if you can't follow us on TV, please follow us on fox9.com and other streaming devices as well as streaming formats. We certainly, Fox Local will have this, fox9.com will have this, we'll have it on the linear platform, which we call broadcast right here as well throughout the day and certainly throughout the evening. This is an ongoing story, so you can follow it with us here on Fox at any point during the day as we follow it as well. This procession, many miles long, it started in downtown Minneapolis at least a half hour ago and is still streaming on 35 South and now onto 62 as they make the 15-mile trek to Minnetonka. This won't be over anytime soon. It's going to continue. Law enforcement showing their respect, guiding these three bodies to the medical examiner's office. These are agencies and officers and first responders from all over the state that responded when the call went out that three of their officers, three first responders went down this morning.